Hello everybody, this is El Capitano here, again at Foodie World Media with Foodie Tactic Hub. Today we bring you another clash between Chelsea and Tottenham. This London derby, we're gonna expose it tactically. Chelsea secured an interesting win, 1-0 against Tottenham. This was a result of Chelsea controlling the midfield and as well as utilizing Tottenham mistakes during the build-up as the first goal was resulted. And we could have seen many goals from the build-up mistakes that Tottenham committed alongside with the high press that Maresca tried to apply in the final third. In this game, we saw Maresca primarily counting on formation 4-2-3-1 and sometimes flip it to 3-5-2 just for him to be able to control the position as well as to apply the high press whenever Tottenham's players try to build up from the back, as well as he tried to close the central channels for Tottenham's player to not be able to circulate the ball. Chelsea would represent the blue chips and Tottenham would represent the red chips. Chelsea started with 4-2-3-1 and as a double pivot we saw that Maresca played with James and Caicedo, and sometimes we would see that they had the support from Enzo Fernández. Maresca, whenever he was out of positions, he would play 4-2-3-1 and this is during the mid block, and sometimes we would see him shifting from 4-3-1 to 4-4-2, and Enzo Fernández would help out João Pedro to apply press on the defenders, on Tottenham players during the build-up. This formation would allow Maresca to close the center and would allow Maresca to close central channels and restrict Tottenham's plays. That's why we saw Tottenham struggle during the build-up, especially in the first half. We've noticed that Maresca during the build-up, he would utilize three defenders during the build-up. We would see James come back and play as a third defender because he's really good with the build-up and with the ball. And we'll see Augusto opening up the right flank and Cucurella opening up the left flank, and you would see that Caicedo and Enzo playing as a double pivot and João Pedro alone in the front, and Garnacho will get close to João Pedro and Neto as well. You would see that the field is very open wide. At the same time, we would see that Tottenham players leave gaps between themselves, and this would actually make it easier for Maresca to build up from the back. You would see Caicedo coming back, helping out during the build-up and playing sometimes as a third man. And you would see sometimes Augusto comes here, plays as an inverted midfielder, and Maresca would create overload in the central midfield. So at the same time, you would see Neto comes back and plays as a winger, and Garnacho and João Pedro in the attack. So you would see on the flanks Cucurella and Neto. So here Chelsea would have numerical superiority on the midfield, and at the same time they're opening up the flanks. So they create gaps between Tottenham's players. The other thing we've noticed that Maresca loves to play with Enzo Fernández into the half spaces as well as Pedro Neto. And whenever Chelsea loses the ball in the final third, you would see Caicedo is the first one who presses. In the first goal, Caicedo was pressing the players and he recovered the ball and gave the ball Pedro, and Pedro was able to score the goal. So that was Maresca's tactic in this game, and we saw him, he applied the same thing in the second half as well, but his players weren't able to utilize the chances that they had. After we saw Enzo Maresca's approach tactically, The only problem with Enzo Maresca is when he plays against teams that I don't want to say I don't want to say small teams, but not the top six teams in the Premier League, because the reason behind that is he tries to play with different formations with every game. There is no sustainability and there is no one rhythm for the team. As well as when they play against top games, when they play against top teams, they have the desire and the aggressiveness to play against those teams, and they give it all. But when they play with teams that have low quality players, you see them, they struggle a lot. The other thing I want to mention is Moisés Caicedo. This guy, he's one of the best players in the world this season. Like, he plays every game, he excels with everything: shooting, high press, building up from the back, and plus on top of that, you see him everywhere in the pitch. And Caicedo is very well with intercepting the ball, as we saw in minute 73 when he intercepted the ball and Neto had a shot, but unfortunately he missed it as well. And we saw him with the first and the only goal as well, when he implemented high press on the Tottenham's players and was able to tackle the ball and give it to Pedro, who scored the winning game as well. I think Enzo Maresca should build the team around this guy, because this guy reminds me of N'Golo Kante. Like, I'm actually impressed about this guy. And the other player I want to highlight is Gusto. Gusto, wow, 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 wow. Gusto, I remember him against Liverpool. He performed one of the best games. As well as today, I saw him, he plays as an inverted midfielder. Like, you see, this guy plays everywhere as well. I think Pochettino, who actually discovered this guy, and I would give him a clap for this guy, because this guy is a fuel, is energetic. And what I'm impressed about is how Enzo Maresca can play him and James at the same time. Both players could provide different roles in the game, and that's where Enzo Maresca's strength come in. But as I mentioned earlier, his only problem is that he's not stable with one formation. And the last point I want to mention and player is Enzo Fernández. Yes, Enzo Fernández came to Chelsea with a very high fee, but this guy every game proves that he deserves this fee. And we saw him how he plays in the central midfield, giving support to Caicedo and James, as well as he's playing as a second striker and linking up with Joao Pedro. We saw him how he's wonderful with linking up in minute 73. And as well as this guy, he's not just attempting to score with his foot, but with his head as well. We saw him when he missed a header in minute 52. At the end of the video, I want to say something, that Chelsea has the squad, and this squad is very solid, but the only thing that they're missing is the rhythm. And especially when they're playing against teams who have low quality or they're less than them, you see Chelsea just lose it, and you feel like they don't know ABC football. But I see lots of positivity in this squad and this coach, but they need time. As we know that Premier League is not easy. There is clashes. At the end of the video, if you like our content, please subscribe and give us that like button, and peace.